everyone, it's DJ. Today I'll be teaching you the basics of cross stitch. This is one of my own patterns. I sell cross stitch kits on my Etsy shop. I'll link it down below. And this is my newest kit. I designed a bunch of tomatoes on a vine in varying stages of ripeness. And I just love the colors. It would be great as kitchen decor. And it's just a fun, easy, simple kind of color block pattern, which isn't too crazy in details, so it's great for a beginner, and especially if you like this kind of kitchen decor. I also have a lot of other kits that are landscape, other food type items like a coffee cup or lemons, and I have some animals, so there's a little bit of everything. So when you purchase a kit from me, this is what you will get in it. You will get the pattern and instructions, so you'll get a full color pattern, and then you'll get a black and white pattern with symbols, because sometimes the colors are hard to distinguish on the printed color pattern, so you'll have to refer to the symbol pattern to make sure you get all the stitches in the correct places. And then here is the instruction sheet. You will get some basic beginner tips here, and the instructions, and then the list of everything that's in the kit, including the color numbers of the DMC thread and how much of each color you are getting. I cut all of these for you already instead of giving you the skeins so that you have a good amount. I give you about 1.5 times what you need. It depends on how you cross stitch, if you use more or less, and it just depends on the person. I tend to use a lot less than what I'm giving you here, but there's enough in case you make a little mistake and have to back out some stitches and redo it. So this is all the thread you're getting, and then it also comes with the correct size of hoop for the project. This is a 6-inch hoop, and it is bamboo and very nice quality. I always check every single hoop before I ship it out to make sure this glue seam on the inside ring is sturdy, and also that the screw works, because I've had several where you couldn't turn the screw or the seam was loose. And then finally you get a piece of Aida cloth, and this is 14 count white Aida cloth, and I serge the edges, stitch them on my serger machine, so that you don't have to worry about it fraying as you're working on the project. So this is a 9-inch square for a 6-inch hoop, so that you have plenty to wrap around the edges. And then of course you get the needle, and this is a cross stitch needle. It's blunt, it is not sharp. I mean, unless you really poke yourself hard, but it is not like a dangerous type of needle, especially for like younger kids, maybe, you know, ages 7 to 10 who want to try cross stitch. This would be okay with parental supervision. And then an optional item you can add on to your order is a needle threader. If you don't want to have to fight threading a needle, you stick this loop through the eye of the needle, and then you have this large space to put your thread through, and then pull it out, and it threads the needle for you. So let's get started. The very first step is to put the fabric onto the hoop. Now, if your fabric has a crease in it or any wrinkles, this is 100% cotton, and you can iron it with a steam iron. You can just blast it with steam and all the wrinkles will come out, even if they're real stubborn. If they're really, really stubborn wrinkles, you can spray it with some water and they will come out. So first, you want to hold on to the nut that's on the screw and unscrew it until you don't want to unscrew all the way. You just want to go until there's just like a little bit left on here. So you're separating the top from the bottom. So grab the bottom, the complete circle without the screw, and you put it down and put your fabric on top. See, you can kind of see the hoop underneath it here. So what you want to do is just try to the best of your ability to center the fabric on the hoop. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's plenty of fabric leeway here, so don't worry about that. So now you're going to take the top portion of the hoop and you're going to press down firmly over the fabric to secure it around the bottom part of the hoop. And you want to press down really firmly while holding on to the edges of the fabric. The point here is to make the fabric as tight as possible. So just push, and you might need to already go ahead and tighten this a little bit at a time and then keep pushing it on. This is going to be stiff. It's very stiff fabric. It's starched so that you have that structure of the grid. So then you just go around and pull gently without warping the fabric. You don't want to do that. And then tighten the screw a little bit. Pull, see that little gather there? We don't want that. So just gently pull around, and tighten. And keep going until you basically can't tighten it anymore. And this is a screw, so if you have trouble with your fingers, you can get a screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver, and some pliers and tighten it that way. And I have had to do that on some of the hoops that were quite tight to begin with. So once you have your fabric quite tight, then now we can mark the middle. See, I didn't even get it perfectly centered. That's totally fine. There are no real rules to cross stitch here. So we always start a project in the center. That's why I have these center lines, the real thick ones here, because you want to start in the center and then work outward. Otherwise, you might start off center and then it will be really difficult. You have to move the hoop around and everything. So we're going to look at our pattern, and you can pick any of these colors you want to start with in the center. I'm going to start with this darkest green shade here, which is 3346, just because it's a small little area here, which will be a good, like a building block, and then we can do the rest around it. So I'm going to start here, but you can start whatever color you want that's near the center. And the only other items you'll need to do these kits are a pair of scissors, just any sharp scissors that will cut thread, and I really suggest a highlighter or a colored pencil of some sort, because you're going to want it to mark off on your symbol grid where you've been. And you can even use it on the color grid if you can distinguish the colors well enough. So here is one single piece of my 3346. You could pull it out of here. There's several on here because I pre-cut them into reasonable lengths for you. So pull out one strand, and you'll see on DMC thread, each strand of the thread has 6 separate strands within it. Sometimes they're a little hard to pull apart here, but there are always 6, okay? You see the 3 and 3, and with all of my kits and what is normal practice for dealing with 14 count Aida cloth is to use 2 of the 6 strands of thread. So some people like to pull the strands one at a time to avoid knots, and that works great. So just kind of gently but firmly hold on to the rest of the strands and pull one out at a time. This prevents any like really bad knots and having to fight with it. So pull out another one, and now join the 2 equally. Now we're going to get out our needle, and I like to lick the ends of these to make them stick together to put them through my needle, or you can use the needle threader here. So put this through the eye of the needle, and then you have this big old space to put the thread through like that, and then just pull it through the needle. Easy. Now this is the part where the most mistakes happened and most misunderstandings happened when I was trying to help people who were having problems with my kits. So you're going to want to stitch with 2 strands. That means that you don't want to double over both ends of this thread and link and tie both of these together, because that would mean you're stitching with 4 strands, and we don't want that. So the tail end here is going to remain loose, and you're only going to knot one end. I do have this in the beginner tips. Right here, do not double over the thread and secure both tails to the back of the project. This second strand remains loose. The only reason why it's so far down here is to make it shorter for pulling it through the fabric. So you can either knot the end of it, which is what I typically do because it's just easier. I wrap it around my finger, I pinch it, and then I roll it, and then pull. This makes a nice little knot. Or if you want a really clean looking back to your project, you can secure the thread to the back of the project with stitches. And that means that you leave like a longer tail through the back and hold it while you stitch over the top of it. And that just makes it a nice cleaner look. It doesn't bother me. And if you want to go the cleaner route, great. It's whatever you want. And there's so many other ways of dealing with the ends of it that other YouTubers, other people can show you online that are even more clean looking or invisible, but it's the back of the project. It doesn't bother me. So that's what I like to do. Now we want to find the center of this. And you can use a ruler. You can do also what I instructed in these of folding the fabric in force before you put on the hoop to like mark the middle. But I just kind of like to measure it. So it's going to be approximately 6 inches. And I like to just put my needle in one of the holes at the 3-inch mark. And then you check it the other way to make sure you got the middle, which pretty much did. Yes, it's right in between. You just have to get really close to the middle. And then I like to just kind of wiggle this, and it makes a slightly bigger hole so you can find it when you move up through the back of it. So let's get started. I'm going to do this stitch right here first. And you always want to make your stitches in the same direction. So I'm going to start from the top left down to the bottom right. That is a half of a stitch. Now I'm going to pull my needle up through that bottom left corner and then go to the top right. That is your first cross stitch. Now this is considered a full cross stitch. Some other patterns will have you use half stitches, which is just the first part, or back stitching or knots, and I don't use any of the half stitches or back stitching because I just don't like them. So all of my patterns, they're only full cross stitches, which makes it easier for everyone. So now that I have that first stitch done, I want to have 4 across right here. So go in the same direction you started. This way. And then over. Now when I'm stitching and when I'm trying to put my needle up through the back of the project, I keep my finger behind here as like a guide of where I'm at. And so I kind of end up stabbing my finger just a little bit, not to the point it hurts. I'm just I'm just feeling where I'm supposed to be going. So I keep my finger here. All right, there are our first 4. That's right here. Now I want to do these 5 stitches right here. 2 across, 2 up, and then 1. And what's usually good to do is to do a series of half stitches first and then come back and finish them all and then move on down from there. I'll show you that. So I'm just going to do only half stitches for these 5. Just like that, and then I'm going to go back and finish all of them. All right, this would be about the point where I would bring out the highlighter and I would mark where I've been. These ones are a little difficult because of the color of the pattern. I try really hard to pick symbols that are easily distinguishable between each other, but there's a limited amount, and but this is what we've done so far, and so we're going to do the rest of this. And it's easier to see on the colored one at this moment. So we have this little hat looking situation. So now I'm going to go across here and do that. I like to do long rows of half stitches, finish them, and then keep going down. In order to save the most thread while you're stitching, you want to plan out where you're going while you're stitching. So for example, if I were going to do this color of thread that's here, here, and here, I would probably start like up here, go down here, and like jump to here, do half stitches to here, go back up to complete the stitches, and then full stitches to here, and then jump over here, and then complete this. And that would save the most thread and have the fewest long jumps of thread on the back of your project. So let's continue with this little stem part. We just finished the stem, this whole little part right here, and since the other stems of the same color are quite far away, then I'm not going to try to count and find exactly where that is, because that's a good way to make mistakes and it'll throw off your whole project. So now we want to just tie off this thread and cut it. So the best really way to do this I have found is to stick your needle and run it underneath at least 4 stitches, like that. And then you're going to push it, pull it through, and then it is secured. And now you can clip your thread quite close to your project. And that leaves a nice flat surface on the back. Now we can choose which color we want to do next, and it doesn't matter, it's all up to you. I think I would want to go for this bulk of the main green color here. So what I like to do to prevent more counting is I would like start right here, because I know where this stitch is. I start here, and I would actually just do the outline. I would count the outline in half stitches. I'd go around here, and then like around this area. And then after you have your outline where you know where you need to fill in, then you don't even have to count. You don't even have to really look at the pattern much anymore. You can just have fun filling this in and listen to an audiobook or watch some show while you're stitching. So make it easier on yourself. You don't have to be constantly counting, checking the pattern, counting, and all that. So make it fun for yourself, and yeah, do the outlines and then kind of fill in. And then just do whatever colors you want. If you want to, then do this yellow part and you don't want to work on the green tomato, then jump up here and start on the red one. There are no rules to this, and you can just make it fun and a super relaxing hobby and craft, and it gets a little addictive. It is so fun when you start going, stitching and stitching, and then you just want to keep going. And so I hope you enjoy getting into this craft of cross stitch, and I have a lot of just PDF patterns on my shop as well as the kits. But if you're a beginner, I do strongly recommend a kit because you're going to get everything you need. And most other kits won't come with fabric that is stitched on the edges, because otherwise it's going to fray a lot and it's going to cause you problems. And also the pre-cut thread is nice because I have it in lengths that are manageable and it's easier to not get them tangled. And they're all numbered and everything. So yes, as long as you're using just 2 of the 6 strands and you are counting everything correctly, starting in the middle, you should have no problem having fun and producing something that's really beautiful. And if you mess up a few stitches, who cares? It is your project. It doesn't matter if, oh, this stem, you accidentally got a couple stitches wrong. It doesn't matter. It's fine. You can back them out. You can cut them if it really bothers you, but it's your project. It'll look great either way, and it's for you. So just have fun with it and get to stitching because it is so fun, and I can't wait to share this craft.